Well, good morning, everyone. Happy Monday morning to you. Welcome back to Morning Musings. My name is Don K. Preston. I'm the president of Preterist Research Institute of Ardmore, Oklahoma. And we are continuing our study of the Olivet Discourse. Now, we're coming down to a close. It's not too far off. It's in the very near future. And I don't mean by that 2,000 years. Now, couple of things. Um, you'll notice I am in my studio. And I've got to tell you, I am totally frustrated. Okay. My camera that I had been using literally for years for production work, and then, of course, for YouTube as well, it wouldn't work when we moved out of our old offices. I had to send it off, had to spend $500 getting it fixed. Well, in the meantime, I've been using my laptop here. And so I finally got the camera back. Like I said, it cost me $500 to fix it. So this week I was so excited. And of course, with all the move and everything out of the old office, I'll be really honest, we lost some cables. But finally, I found what I thought were all of my cables, right? Found the attachment for my tripod. So I'm thinking, cool, I'll be able to get my camera set back up, start, and I've got a boom mic set up here on my, on my desk now, and not sure that's going to work yet. But anyway, I was really excited. So I go to plug everything in, and lo and behold, I cannot find a port to plug in my power cable. Now, mind you, it plugged right into the side before, but they had to replace some ports in order to fix it. So what it appears now is when they replaced a port, they replaced it, the old one, with a configuration with a shape that will not accept the old power cord. So guess what? I still don't have my my camera available to me. So here I am with my laptop still. I'm going to be calling the camera repair place today. Find out what in the world is going on. I know that the old power cable used to plug into the side of that. I knew right where it went. It will not plug in there now. So something has changed, and boy, is it frustrating. So I was going to drag out one of the little, desktop cameras and try it in the other part of my new office. Well, the lighting wasn't good. It just didn't work. So here I am back with my laptop. So we're doing the very best that we can, trying to get everything figured out. One of these days, I'm going to be producing my videos back with my camera, and it will be better audio and better video theoretically. So that's what I'm hoping. In the meantime, and oh, by the way, last Friday, I forgot to announce, we concluded our study of why N.T. Wright is wrong on the redemption of creation and the redemption of the body. And as I announced before, our next project is going to be a review and refutation of Steve Gregg's new book entitled Why Not Full Preterism. Now, also, as I announced before, I'm going to be taking probably, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to begin that series the first Friday in December. Now, that means it will undoubtedly be interrupted some because of the holidays, but nonetheless, beginning in December 2022, I will begin my review and refutation of Steve Gregg's book, Why Not Full Preterism, something you want to be looking forward to. I mean, I've got a ton of notes taken from his book about issues that I have and about his claims, about logical fallacies, about hermeneutical fallacies, and abuse of scripture, abuse of context. And so you do not want to be missing that. That's beginning in December 2022. All right, now then, we've been focused on Matthew chapter 25, 31 and following, demonstrating that, as virtually everyone admits, It was a prediction of the last days, day of the Lord. The last days, day of the Lord, parallel with 2 Thessalonians chapter 1. Now, interestingly enough, as I've shared with you, there's a growing number of postmillennialists especially who are now admitting that 2 Thessalonians chapter 1 was fulfilled in AD 70 with the Lord's judgment of Jerusalem for persecuting the saints. Well, that's remarkable. That's non-creedal, and it's remarkable. But the great consensus, the great majority of commentators nonetheless, still take Matthew chapter 25, 31 and following directly parallel with 2 Thessalonians chapter 1. Well, what I've been sharing with you is that 2 Thessalonians chapter 1 is based directly on, taken from Isaiah chapters 2 through 4. Isaiah chapters 2 through 4 is about the last days, day of the Lord. Okay? Well, guess what? What we have seen thus far is that the last days, day of the Lord of Isaiah chapter 2 through 4 would be the time in which men could run to the mountains, hide in the caves, cry to the rocks, fall on us. I've shared with you from Isaiah chapter 3 that this day of the Lord, and all you got to do, folks, is follow the in that day references to the antecedents, and you'll see that this is absolutely irrefutably true. So the last days, day of the Lord would be a time of famine. The Lord said in that day, I'm going to take away the whole stock of the bread, whole stock of the water from Jerusalem and from Judah. Now remember, this is in the last days. And here's a real conundrum. Postmillennialists and amillennialists tell us the last days is a reference to the Messianic age, the Christian age, and that God was through with Israel, Old Covenant Israel, at the cross. Well, if that's true, okay, if the last days is a reference to the Messianic age, Christian age, and God was through with Israel at the cross, then why is Isaiah chapters 2 through 4 focused on the last days judgment of Old Covenant Jerusalem and Judah, which would take place well after the cross when God was ostensibly through with Israel? Why is he still concerned with Israel in the last days, in the Christian age? You see, this makes absolutely no sense when you identify the last days as the Christian age. When, to reiterate, God supposedly is having nothing whatsoever to do with Old Covenant Israel. Okay, so I want to share with you now, and last week, I'm really enjoying my coffee this morning. I got a fantastic scald on it today. Yeah, that is really good stuff. So anyway, I shared with you how Isaiah chapter 3, verse 24, the Lord said, your men shall fall by the edge of the sword in the war. I shared with you that Jesus in Luke 21:24 echoes Isaiah 3:24 directly. Now, folks, do you catch the power of that? Here in Luke chapter 21, Jesus is specifically talking about the coming destruction of Jerusalem in AD 70. You know, the time when Jerusalem would be surrounded by the armies, the time of her desolation in that generation. And it would be the time when your men shall fall by the edge of the sword, directly echoing Isaiah 3:24. But Isaiah 3:24 is a prediction of the day of the Lord in the last days. Okay, but that means God was concerned with, focused on the fate of Israel, Old Covenant Israel, in the ostensible, supposed Christian age. But wait, I'm sorry if this seems repetitious, but you've got to catch the power of this contradiction in the amillennial and in the postmillennial world. When they identify the last days as the Christian age, the Messianic age as it's commonly called, the time when God had already been through with Israel at the cross. So here's the cross, the terminal point of God's dealings with Old Covenant Israel. Yet here is Isaiah chapter 3, verse 24, speaking of the fate of Old Covenant Israel in the last days at the day of the Lord. But you see, the last days, day of the Lord is supposed to be the end of time. And it's supposed to be the end of the Christian age. But it's the day of the Lord in the last days at the time of the war when Israel's men would fall by the edge of the sword. I don't know how to communicate the power of this any better. This is a profoundly destructive reality for those who identify the last days as the Messianic age, the Christian age, and saying at the same time, God was through with Israel at the cross. God took away the Old Testament at the cross. Wait a minute. You know, it's axiomatic. It is irrefutably true. If a law or a covenant has been abrogated, annulled, let's put it like this. If a law or a covenant has been nailed to the cross, then none of the provisions of that old law, in other words, the commands, the mandates, or the prophecies, are applicable anymore. That's why, by the way, when the New Testament says that the new heaven and the new earth was coming very, very soon, shortly, quickly, etc., in fulfillment of Isaiah, that's why, guess what? Isaiah 65, 66 is no longer applicable insofar as a prophetic body of Scripture. It means the new heaven and new earth became a reality, quickly, shortly, and at hand from John's perspective. Or else, God's Old Covenant promises made to Old Covenant Israel are still valid and binding. But, back to the point, it is axiomatic that if a law or a covenant has been taken out of the way, nailed to the cross, then that means that none of its commands, mandates, or provisions are applicable anymore. Well, that means Isaiah chapter 2 through 4, a prediction of the war on Israel in the last days, is no longer applicable. And thus, guess what? When the postmillennialists speak of a yet future conversion of national Israel immediately before and causing the last days, day of the Lord, they're misapplying Isaiah 2 through 4. Folks, I'm sorry, you cannot say that the old law, the law of Moses, the Old Testament, was done away at the cross without saying that Isaiah chapter 2 through 4 was done away with at the cross. But wait a minute. If you identify the last days as the Christian age, that took place after the cross, but the last days is the context for Isaiah 2 through 4. It's the temporal context for the fulfillment of Isaiah 2 through 4, which has nothing whatsoever to do with the end of the Christian age, has nothing whatsoever to do with the destiny of the church, except the fact that the establishment of the church the establishment of the Messianic banquet in fulfillment of God's promises to Old Covenant Israel were to be fulfilled in Israel's last days and continue forever. See, the result of fulfillment. Hey, I'm out of time. I threw a lot of stuff out there. Tomorrow, we're going to focus on this promise of the war. The last days, day of the Lord, the war. I'm going to show you some things that are really, really remarkable. You don't want to miss it. So I'll see you on the flip side.